What's going on, everyone? So welcome to my latest video. This is my latest catch-up video. This time around it is for September of 2023. If you're new to the channel, this is where I talk about all the 2023 films I watched in a certain month. In this case, September of 2023. I'll be talking about these movies very briefly, going from the beginning of the month to the end of the month. And again, because I'll be talking about these very briefly, I'll just be then also giving you guys my rating. And if you want my full in-depth thoughts on these films, you guys can check them out on my Letterboxd, which I will put the link down below. But guys, enough exposition. Let's get started. So to start the month off, I watched To Catch a Killer. This is the one with Shailene Woodley. And I wanted to see this in theaters. I really did. But if I'm not mistaken, when this came out in theaters, there was other films that I decided to watch over it. And I'm kicking myself for that because this is one of those films that is under the radar for many people. But many people should watch this film, especially if you like crime thrillers. This is a very thrilling film. It's thought-provoking. It also has really, really engaging directing and a great Carter Burwell score. Love the performances. It's a very well-crafted film. I will say the third act, there are some things that I felt frustrated about, but I also understood why the writing went towards those decisions, if that makes sense. So I can see why some people might not like the final act necessarily, but it's still overall a very well-directed film that is able to rise above the cliches of the genre and create a, in my opinion, compelling, underappreciated film. Watch To Catch a Killer. It's solid. I watched this on DVD at my local library, but it is on Hulu, so if you have Hulu, please check out To Catch a Killer. And that's why, for me, I'll be giving it a... Next up, another movie I missed in theaters, which is going to be a reoccurring theme of September. Nefarious. So Nefarious was odd because April there was a bunch of horror films that came out, and this was one of them. But I chose those horror films to watch in theaters as opposed to this one. I was like, you know what, I'll wait until my local library. And that's mostly because of the director. This is the same director that did Unplanned, which was, in my opinion, the worst film of 2019. Not a good film. And Nefarious, I will say, is better than that film for sure, but this is still a terrible, terrible movie. I would not recommend Nefarious in the slightest. It is very dull. Some of the acting is decent, I suppose, but the dialogue, the pacing, the directing, overall themes, messages, it's just not a good movie in the slightest. Definitely one of the worst I've seen of the year, and yeah. For me, that's why I'm giving Nefarious a... Next up, we have a huge surprise. We have the movie Jawan. So this movie, I hadn't even heard about until September when I was scrolling through Showtime's, on the AMC app, and I saw that this was playing in IMAX, and I was like, huh, okay, a international feature film is playing in IMAX. Let me check this out. And I'm glad that I did because I really dug this film. I loved how it combined many different genres to create a thrilling, exciting, engaging, well-crafted story with visuals that I just found to be stunning. I liked the performances. I really, again, I can't emphasize enough, I loved the blending of genres. I think they did such a great job with blending it all seamlessly. It's a very, very well-crafted film. I've heard some people say that, if you haven't seen a lot of, India films, then that's why you'll think this movie's great. So, I don't know. I mean, I've seen it, not a lot, but I've seen enough to where I'm like, yeah, I can see that there was a lot of merits to this film, but I've also heard some people say not as much, from that country. So, I don't know. I'm definitely curious to hear your guys' thoughts on if you like Jawan. I know for me, I quite like Jawan. It was a huge surprise, and that's why for me, I'll personally be giving Jawan a... And next up, we have Gran Turismo. So this I saw in theaters, but I'm not going to lie, I would have been fine not seeing this in theaters, but one of my best friends is a huge car person, and he wanted to see this in theaters, so I was like, all right, I'll watch it with him. And I gotta say, this is definitely Neil Blomkamp's best film since District 9. That being said, I mean, he made Elysium and Chappie, so it's not really saying much, but it's an entertaining enough movie. But it's one of those movies where in the moment you're enjoying it, but as soon as it ends, it starts to fade from the memory, if that makes sense. And this is definitely the case for this movie. It's fine. It's okay, I suppose. I can see why some people might really dig it. For me, it is crowd pleasing. It's serviceable, but I don't really have much more to say about that because, again, I'm filming this video a couple weeks after watching it, so it's already slowly faded away. So yeah, for me, Gran Turismo, it's all right. That's why I'll personally be giving a... And next up, we have Theater Camp. So Theater Camp, I wanted to see in theaters, but I think I didn't have enough energy to actually see this in theaters. I don't know. I don't really have an excuse as to why I didn't, other than I just didn't really have enough energy for the week or two that it was playing in theaters near me. That being said, I will say that I'm not that disappointed that I missed seeing this in theaters because watching it at home, I just thought it was okay. I appreciated a lot with what they were going for. I especially liked the acting. And I really do like how some of these actresses, I should say, are also in the TV show The Bear. I thought that was pretty cool. I like how it also is trying to emulate being shot on film. I don't know if it actually was shot on film, but I do like how they were really trying to emphasize a film kind of look to the cinematography. So I appreciated that. Again, I like the performances. I just wasn't that engaged by the story itself. But I did like the documentary style technique to the storytelling itself. But overall, I thought this was all right. Again, I can see why some people might love this movie, but for me, I thought it was just all right. And that's why for me, Theater Camp, I personally will be giving a... And next up, we have Outlaw, Johnny Black. So this was a movie that I hadn't really heard about going into it, but it's a Western, and I love Westerns. I really do. And I don't really hear too much about Westerns coming out in theaters, so I wanted to support this movie. And I gotta say, after watching it, it's pretty middle of the road. Some of the comedy is effective for sure. No denying that. I liked the cinematography. I thought it had a nice, pleasing film-like look to it that I really dug. I liked the performances. I thought they were nice, but this movie was way too long. I thought that it was also tonally inconsistent. There are times where, yes, the humor works, but then there are other times where it will shift like a whiplash kind of effect where it will go from being trying to be funny to then all of a sudden being super serious. And I think that because of that, it really does affect the plotting. The plotting itself is something that it's trying to be a revenge film whilst at the same time trying to be a comedy. And sometimes those two things clash, unfortunately. So overall, I would say if you like Westerns, I would definitely recommend you check this out at least a one time. But do go into it knowing that it is overlong. It could have been like 95, 100 minutes, but still, it's middle of the road, but I would still say slight recommendation. And that's why for me, Outlaw Johnny Black, I personally will be giving a... Next up, a movie I was greatly looking forward to, we have Dumb Money. So Dumb Money is one of those movies that I remember a couple years ago when this happened with GameStop because a couple of my friends were actually involved with it. One of my friends got a couple $1,000s out of it, so that's cool. And he actually told me, he was like, hey, this movie, this is going to make a great movie, like this whole thing. So I was like, all right. And then, of course, it got announced, and then, of course, the trailer dropped, and then I was like, yeah, I guess he was right. And he is, because the movie itself is entertaining, and I do think that it is engaging with the performances. I do also quite like Paul Dano in particular. I thought his performance is really good, but that goes without saying because he's such a great actor. He is one of those actors that has been working for a long time, but I am glad that he's finally getting recognized by mainstream audience members because he's so good with everything that he does. And I'm glad that he got a lead performance role with this. I liked the filmmaking for the most part. It's passable for sure, but I will say one thing that did strike me as, I don't want to say concerning, but it was something that I was kind of disappointed by, is that this doesn't really have much of an impact. By the end of the movie, it's like, okay, I was entertained by this movie for sure, no question about that, but I didn't really leave it saying, hey, I gained a lot of information from it that I already knew. I felt like it was a thought-provoking experience. No, I didn't feel any of those things. I felt like it was just a well-crafted, entertaining film, and for some, that might be enough. For me, I wanted a bit more for it to go to the next level. Movies like this, it's one of those things where we see a lot of rise and fall type movies. And I feel like if you want to stick out, you got to have more than just that. And this movie, I just didn't really think had that. But still, that being said, I know it might sound like I'm being negative towards this movie, but truthfully, I enjoyed this film. I really did. And I would definitely say watch it because Dumb Money, again, it's very entertaining. And I do like Paul Dano's performance in particular. He's really good. And yeah, that's why for me, Dumb Money, I'll be giving a... Next up, we have another movie that I missed in theaters. We have Elemental. So Elemental, I watched on Disney Plus, and I'm glad that I didn't watch this in theaters because it's just very middle of the road. I love Thomas Newman's score. I do think the animation is very colorful, very bright, very vibrant, and I do like those two aspects. But everything else just feels like a missed opportunity. You have potential with the story, but the actual execution left so much to be desired, especially the third act. The third act follows every comedy trope known to mankind, where it's like, characters do things just because, a relationship deteriorates just because. It's one of those things that it's just very frustrating as a viewer. Again, I don't know, maybe that's just because I've seen a lot of movies, but it is also a case where I will say this. If, especially younger people, if they like this movie, I can definitely understand why. It is one of those things where the themes and messages, the heart of the movie, it's there. It's definitely one of those things where it's got its heart in the right place. But the overall execution left a lot to be desired for a more seasoned viewer, such as myself. And again, I know that might sound pretentious, but it's one of those things where I like Pixar movies, I do, but I just feel like this is one of the lesser movies of them. And it's a shame. It really is, because I feel like the last several years we just haven't really experienced like that Pixar like movie where it's like you watch it and it's like, yeah, this is a movie that adults and kids can appreciate. I just don't really feel that with Elemental, at least for me personally. But still, like I said, I think this movie is middle of the road. It's not bad. It's not good. Somewhere in between, at least for me. And if you like this movie a lot, I can totally understand that. For me, like I said, I feel middle of the road about it. And that's why for me, Elemental, I'll personally be giving a... And next up, we have The Creator. So The Creator is one of those movies where going into it, I really wasn't looking forward to it, but I heard a lot of positive feedback, which surprised me because Gareth Edwards, I think that he is a very bland director. So I was like, okay, he's making a movie that a lot of people are saying is going to be like a sci-fi classic. All right. So I went in with whelming expectations. And I will say overall, I thought this movie was okay. I think that it was a missed opportunity in a lot of aspects, but I will say that it is an original sci-fi movie. So right then and there, I say go watch this movie. It is worth supporting for that alone. But also the visuals are just absolutely stunning. And it's a middle-ish budget movie. So that's also cool because it just goes to show that you can make a movie that's visually stunning that is under $200 million. But I already knew that, but in case some people didn't know that, because I mean, like, look at Ex Machina. I think that movie costs like $10 million, but it has incredible visual effects. So it's all on how you use the money, and The Creator definitely showcases that, where it uses the money that it has very well. I like the acting. I think the acting is pretty good. Hans Zimmer's score is decent. I thought that it was effective when utilized. Not the biggest fan of the soundtrack choices, I will say, and I do think that using two different cinematographers is something that was very noticeable because you have some shots that are very focused on wide angle, beauty, like just showing the natural splendor. Then you have other times where it is so shaky camera ridden where it's hard to tell what's going on, and it's up close, of course, and everything. So it's like it was two styles that were clashing. So I feel like they should have probably used one cinematographer. I think Greg Fraser was the one that honestly used a lot of the wide angle shots. That's just from his other films that I've seen. I feel like he's the one that was going for that. So I think maybe they should have just stuck with him. But still, The Creator, it's all right. I appreciate it, but it might just be a one-time watch for me. I don't know. For now, that's how I'm feeling. That's why for me, The Creator, I'll personally be giving a And last but not least, we have No One Will Save You. This is a Hulu movie. I hadn't heard about this movie, honestly, until towards the end of the month, which is why I decided to watch it. One thing that got me to actually watch this movie was that I heard that it's like 99% visual storytelling. So immediately I was like, okay, all right, I'm in. So the thing about this movie is this. First half, great. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. Second half, it's okay. It's very okay. The second half, honestly, is what I took points off, because the second half I just thought the quality dipped immensely. It didn't have that strong build up, that strong immersion of the environment that the first half did such a great job of building to. But I will say the lead performance is great. I do love the fact that it is 99% visual storytelling. Some of the cinematography is quite stunning. The score is not necessarily memorable, but it works at times. But overall, I thought this movie was all right. But I definitely respect it a lot, and definitely one of the more better movies I saw this particular month. So that's why for me, No One Will Save You, I'll personally be giving a... But yeah, guys, those are the movies I saw in September of 2023. It is always a slow month in September. It really is. So it's kind of nice that I had to, come across other movies that I was like, okay, I didn't see these in theaters, so now I gotta watch them, on home media. So it worked out that way. But yeah, very curious about October, November, December, and I want to hear your guys' thoughts on what you guys watched in September. Let me know in the comment section down below on what you guys watched. And as always, thank you very much for watching. With the subscription, notification bell, follow me down Letterboxd, and I will catch you guys later.